test?
Yes.
There are 3 questions, okay? And the 3 questions have multiple parts, of course.
Is it going to be like the 5-part one or like?
Well, that's what I was getting at right now. You're anxious. Okay, so the way that I set this up is there are 28 total points. You can eliminate one of the 3-point questions to make it 25 total points. And if you choose to do that extra 3-point question, I'll make extra credit out of it. Okay? So, does everybody understand that?
But if you do it just wrong, does it still count against you?
Not a problem. You just tell me which one is your I'm trying for extra credit problem.
Whichever one of them I feel.
So, again, there's 28 total points on this test.
What is it? Tomorrow?
Yeah.
Choose which one.
You get to choose which, there's 5 or 6 3-point questions that one of them you can eliminate.
5 or 6.
Right.
Yeah, they're like sub-questions.
Oh,
How many
there's
parts
3
are
main
you
questions, and then they're split up into different questions and 3 questions within questions.
Right. So you have a 3-question test. Like one of them has 2 point, 2 point, 3 point, 3 point. Okay. Number 2 has 1 point, 4 point, 4 point.
Okay.
The next one has 3 point, 3 point, 3 point. One of those 3s, you can say, okay, this one is a little too difficult for me to do. I'm going to put that aside for extra credit. Does that make sense? Okay. So it's out of 25 points. That way you have a wiggle room in there. And you get to choose which 3.1 you don't think you're good with. Yes?
So in total you'd be answering 4 questions?
In total, you would be answering 3 with partial parts in it.
Okay.
3 questions, you just choose one that
You're not seeing the test, are you? With this
No.
Okay. I can see Nick. You're videoing me and the test at the same time. Okay, so here's the things you need to know how to do. Take a word, some word, and be able to rearrange it with no restrictions. Rearrange it with restrictions. Okay, so we've done many different types. Like 2 letters have to stay together, or it starts with a vowel, ends in a vowel. Yeah, those types of things. So one of them has restrictions. Okay, and there's actually 2 of those types of questions with 2 different words. So I was, figured you can work with that.
2 and 3, or you mean 2?
Number 2, part A. Number 3, part A and B. So have all that type of stuff to it. And then there's one that's 2 like that? 2, yeah. 2 with multiple parts.
Yeah, but
Then
like 2
there's-
full questions are like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Then there's some choosing questions. Like you have the one that had there were 20 people on the sidelines for football and you can choose 11, that sort of thing. Those types of questions. So, and then it has where you have to have more females than males. We did a few like that where you do your choice, multiply, choice, multiply, all the different scenarios, and then you add your answers. Okay, we've done a few of those in class. Okay, yes.
Will it be the one where we said you've got no woman can stand next to each other? So we do a man and we put a space every other place?
Yeah, that's
okay.
different. I can't remember the one we did together in class where it had, you were only allowed to choose 2 women and 3 men, and so
and
there was a total of 5 people, so you could choose 5.
Oh, the committee of 5.
So it's maybe
5 men and 6 women.
Yeah.
Probability of it being 2 men and 3 women chosen.
Is it probability?
Not a probability, though.
Is it means you just have there's if you have there must be at least 3 men and 2 women in the committee, and there must be more men than women.
That's it.
There must be at least 3 and 2, and one particular woman refuses, so it has to be one.
Not that detailed. Not that detailed.
But the first 2 ones are like that.
Yes. Where they say you have to have at least 3 men, and then so at least means or at most 3 men, whatever. It's 3 men, 2 men, 1 man, or those scenarios, and then add them up, right? Okay, because it's this scenario or this scenario or this scenario. Remember that? So there's a couple of those on there. And then, of course, it's kind of like the restrictions. I think you just said, like, it has to start with a vowel, and every other word is a vowel. Every other letter is a vowel. Does that make sense? Like, if you had a word and they say they want you to rearrange it, but every other letter is a vowel, and you had to figure out, that kind of thing.
And you would set it up with the ones that don't have any restrictions. So like you said that the consonants, and you put a space before and after.
Right. Right.
Uh-huh.
Right. Or you would say, how many vowels are there? Start with how many vowels, and let's say there's 3 vowels. So your first selection could have had 3 choices, or three options, right? And then you have to have a constant. And it depends on how many there are. That's how many you had to choose from, to select from. Then the next one, now you've used 1 vowel. What's next? Now you have 2 vowels to choose from. And then you have a constant. And then you have another vowel. Does that make sense? Okay, so something like that. Okay, so I think I set it up really well. It doesn't have the probabilities on it because we'll continue working on those later. And it's everything we've been doing in class, all the different types of questions we've done in class. So it's nothing, oh my goodness, I've never seen this.
those questions?
Types of questions.
I was saying like the Harry Potter one where it was choose, but this has to be chosen for like those cards that we did.
Kind of, yeah. There's one like we did yesterday, I believe, in class where it said, what's the one we did in class yesterday where it said...
Was it the houses?
The pink one?
No, that's a good one. But no, I think I might have done it with 5th period. It has something to do with, it's a football question, and you had an offensive line and a defense, and we didn't do that one. We'll do that in class today. Let's do that together. Yeah, so that one right there. That would be like one more example that I thought, might kind of correlate to one of the questions. Yes.
Do you have any other like specific problems that we should look at, like in the packet? Or?
No, I've pretty much given you what you need. It's straightforward.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've told you pretty much everything I'm gonna tell you. Yeah.
But not some of the ones that were like more difficult that we.
And in reality, I chose from more recent tests, and the difficulty level is a little less in some of those. So I'm happy with that. I think they're. I think I gave you some good questions. Yeah. All right. Are we good? You feel like you're good? I think it's again. You have the opportunity for 25 points rather than 28, but you can do 28, 3 points extra credit, and I'll figure out how that's going to work. Are we good? Okay. So, what's the question? Of course, I don't know if I have another one.
Made you know 5?
That's completely possible. Made you know 5. All right, so a football team consists of 3 players who have played, yes, that's exactly it. So, May, June 2005, and then it's number 7. Okay. A football team consists of 3 players who play in the... Yeah.
Sorry.
I was like, what? Okay, so 3 of them are defense. I lost my train of thought there. Okay, so 3 of them are defense, 3 who play midfield. Okay, so this is not the football that I'm thinking of, right? And then 5 who play forward. So is this soccer?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. And then 5 who play forward, because that's definitely, it might be lacrosse, but not.
There's no quarterback or anything.
Yeah, what happened to the, right, okay. 3 players are chosen to collect a gold medal for the team, and how many ways can this be done? If the captain, who is a midfield player, must be included, okay, together with 1 defense and 1 forward. So, in other words, the captain has to come, because he's a captain, I guess. And then 1 can be selected from the defense and 1 can be selected from the forward. So how many different ways could this be done? Yes?
So 3 choose 1, 3 choose 1, and then 5 choose 1?
Let me write it down and then we'll discuss it, okay? So you said 3 choose 1, and I'm assuming that's for defense.
Yeah.
And then you're telling me 3 choose 1, and I'm assuming that's for midfield.
Yeah.
And then last 5 choose 1, and I'm assuming that's for your forward. Ooh, I have hands. Yes.
Wouldn't the midfield one just have to be 1 choose 1 because you have to take the captain and he plays midfield?
That's exactly right. Because the fact that it said the captain has to be, you don't have a choice. Does that make sense? So you don't have a choice in the captain's aspect of it. So 100%, one choose one. Or you can just leave it out. You can say that's a given. Yes?
But when the so the captain's from the midfield, but you can only have just the captain from the midfield. You can't have any other midfield players?
That's correct.
Okay.
So they're saying, we want 3 people, but we're telling you one of the 3 people have to be the captain.
So then there's
Who?
2 extra.
So there's 2 other people that you can choose from,
Oh,
of
yeah.
which one has to be a defense and one has to be a forward. Does that make sense?
Okay, now I see, yes.
Yeah. So how does this work? 3 choose 1? 3. 1 choose 1? 1. We know that because there's only 1 guy. And then 5 choose 1, 5. So 15 different ways that could potentially happen. Yes?
What happened like if it was 4 people? Because then it could be, the captain from the midfield, 1 from defense, 1 from forward, and then another one from any of the 3.
Okay, so I totally like that question. So the question he said was, what if it was 4 people rather than 3 people being chosen? One still has to be the captain.
Mhm.
How would this happen?
So if the other person had to be a midfield, then it would be 2 choose 1 because there's 2 remaining in midfield.
If it has to be.
Yeah. Because I was thinking
How
it
would
was
you handle it
the
otherwise?
captain and then 1 for each of them.
Right.
If you had to pick 2 from the defense, wouldn't it be 3 choose 2 and then 1 choose 1, 5 choose 1, and then you would do like 3 choose 1, 1 choose 1, 5 choose 2, and just add them all together?
Right. Because so say why. Say why.
Because if you can only take 4, your first situation would be taking 2 defense and then your captain from the midfield and then 1 forward, so then you'd find all those possibilities. And then your second option would be taking 1 defense, 2 midfield, 1 forward, and then you
Now, how would the midfield be handled, though? Let's just stop there for a second, because we know 1 has to be the captain, right?
Mhm.
So that's a given.
So it would be 2 choose 1.
So it would be 2 to choose from. That's the 1, right? Perfect. And then or the last guy, right? Good job.
Usually there's a constant, you just ignore it.
So if there's like a
Usually there's constant, you just ignore it.
That's right.
It doesn't change it.
right, it's not changing the matter. Yes.
Why do you multiply it?
Okay, so it's if you think about the scenario the way it's worded, for this scenario to happen, it's this and this and this have to happen. Does that make sense? So I have 3 defense and I get to choose 1, and I have 1 captain and I only got him, and I have 5 and then I get to choose 1. The word and means multiply. Now, with the scenario we just talked about that Nick kind of made up where it said, let's choose 4 instead, it would be this, and then we would have or this scenario, or this scenario. So multiple scenarios could fit that bill. So when we say or, we add them up. So we would multiply, 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 and then add our scenarios together. Okay? Is that cool? Okay, questions? I thought you were just, I know you're just hanging. I got you, yeah. All right, any other questions for me so far? So I would suggest, working with people, finding one, probably May, June 2007 with the word refrigerator, kind of practice that.
There's another part.
Oh, there's another part, sorry.
There's like more.
If exactly 1 forward player must be included, together with any 2 others. Okay. Same concept. It's like kind of like what we just talked about. So exactly 1 forward player must be included together.
Is that in addition to the...
No captain. I think at this point they don't care about the captain.
You forget.
Forget the captain. Okay. So let's just go ahead and do this whole thing for May, June 2005. It wouldn't hurt to do the gold medal one. Okay, so if exactly 1 forward player must be included together with any 2 others. So talk me through it.
It would be 5 choose 1.
So it's 5 choose 1 for what? The forward.
And
Okay.
then it'd be like 3 choose 1, and then 3 choose 1.
And then
That's one of those.
That's
3
one.
choose 1. And then 3 choose 1. So it's this and this and this make that scenario.
And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
it could also be the 5 choose 1, and then 3 choose 2, 3 choose 0.
And it said from, let's make sure, together with any 2 others. So they didn't give me any stipulations that 1 had to be in defense or whatever.
Different scenario.
And so, good.
And then it'd be 5 choose 1, 3 choose 0, and then 3 choose 2.
Question to everybody, why is it continuously 5 choose 1?
Because it has to be only exactly 1 forward.
That's exactly right. So it's this scenario, or this scenario, or this scenario.
So you add those together.
Correct. But what do we do across? Multiply, because it's this and this and this make up my scenario. that and that and that make up my scenario. Are we feeling good about this? Okay, so that is like a very good example of what you could see. Now let's do part B. Or should I wait? Oh, wait a minute.
What's the final answer for that?
That's a good question. I don't have it in front of me. Does anybody have an answer we can compare off each other? Still working. I can. What's that?
Which one are we doing?
We're trying to get a final answer for
I got
this.
75.
You got a total of 75? I can look it up to make sure, but if everybody starts getting that same answer, then odds are it's right.
I got 75.
Okay, then I'm starting to feel good. So as we continue to get that. So did anybody else get 75?
Yeah.
Okay, we're feeling good. Okay, I can look it up to 100% make sure, but you know what? If we're getting 75 consistently, I'm going to go with it. Okay, so then part B says, find how many different arrangements there are of the 9 letters in the word gold medal. I like that. If there are no restrictions on the order of the letters. Ian, you got me on this one?
9 factorial over 2 factorial times 2 factorial.
And tell me why.
Well, 9 factorial because there's 9 total letters, and then let's see, there's 2 D's,
2 D's,
and 2 L's, so
Two
they
Ls.
have to be taken account for. So you have to divide it by how many you have factorial.
Excellent, excellent. Question is, can I also account for the ones that have onesies? If I want to, just to make sure I have everything accounted for, completely up to you. Like I could say 1G, 1 factorial, 1O, 1 factorial, and what should my numbers along the bottom add up to?
9.
They should add up to 9 if I've done my job right. So O, I think we've taken care of the L's and the D's, right? And so the 1 for M, the 1 for E, and last but not least, the 1 for A. So it should be 1, 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. We've done that job. Okay, and when you plug it in, what do we get?
90,720.
Okay, 90,720. So does everybody understand why to divide by that repetition number? Okay, excellent. And then it says, if the two letters D come first and the 2 letters L come last. So my restriction is I should draw it first, right? So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and it has to be DD, and it has to be LL. So what is it?
5 factorial, because the D's and the L's is
Okay,
120.
okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 individual things that could potentially be rearranged. So what is it?
Isn't it 7 factorial over 2 factorial, 2 factorial? The D's and L's can switch. So you have 7.
Did it
Never mind,
say-
it is 5. It's 5. Never mind, it's not 7.
Because it says they have to come
Yeah,
first.
so it's 5.
And they have to come last,
Over
right,
two
okay.
Ds.
So, yeah, so, but do they care, do we care about the D's?
Those things the same, so the order.
Correct, right. So we have just 5 factorial. Yes.
What if it said like a D and an E came first and an L and an R came last? So then it would be 5 factorial times 2 factorial times 2 factorial?
Right, because those had to come first and those had to come last, and they are different things, so they could switch.
But you
said that they could switch, but like the 2 D's had to be
Yeah, and the 2 D's.
together or whatever.
Yeah, they wouldn't change, it wouldn't change.
So it wouldn't matter if you had to divide by 2 factorial over 2 factorial.
Because
your D technically
Because
is
2 factorial divided by 2 factorial is just one whole. It just doesn't change it.
No, I mean like 5 factorial over 2 factorial over 2. It doesn't matter.
No,
You do D's.
because the D and the L's are out of the loop for
Even
now.
if you switch your D's
Yeah.
now,
What's that?
even though you can switch the D's.
Well,
They're the same letter.
That's the same letter. But
yeah. So no, I don't think we have to take into account because they're not like part. It's almost like I place them and ignore them. I place them and ignore them at this point because they're definitely in a spot where it doesn't. They're not going to affect the outcome. What are the other kinds of things that they could ask? Let's just make up scenarios. Yes.
If there are 2 D's that are together, so like it's one unit, but then it could move around.
Right. So if the 2 D's must stay together would be the wording, rather than the L on the end end caps. So you could say if the two D's have to stay together, how do we handle that question? Let's try and make that up. Of course, we're not going to have an answer to go back and look at, but we can reason through how it works. So if the two D's have to stay together, how do we describe that? Like when I taught it, what did I do? They're one unit.
You circle it.
They call it parcel it together. I say just circle it. So we have one unit there, right? Okay. So then what? How many? Because we have one unit, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? So it's, all right, so it's 8, oh, time to get rid of it. 8 factorial, tell me what now?
Divide by 2 because of the L.
So 8 factorial divided by 2 because of the L. And anything else? The D's don't really matter, right? Does that make sense? Because they can't switch. Now, yes?
If they were two different letters, then you would be multiplying that by 2 factorial.
Let's talk about that.
Okay.
So let's say instead it was 2 and D and O. They want to keep do together. So now what? So it's 8 factorial. Why is it still divided by 2 factorial?
Because of the L's.
Because of the L's, right? And then,
By 2 again.
what's that?
Multiplied by 2 again, right? Because of the DL.
Because DO can change. So multiply by 2. Next question. What if it's this? AO have to be together.
So you have to take into account
8
the
factorial
other
divided by
A.
4 factorial.
No, not
Or,
4.
Not 4. 2.
2,
Which is 4.
2, right? Which we don't want to call it 4. We'll just do for yeah, for purposes times 2 times 2. Okay, questions, Jane?
So if the A and the O have to stay together, you still have to account for the L's and the D's, which is why there's 2 and 2 at the bottom.
Right.
And then there's 8 spaces, so that's factorial 8.
Right.
What's the 2 for?
This guy? Well, we know that it could start with AO, or it could start with OA.
Gotcha.
Good. Yes.
What about the other A?
What other A?
Just really bad handwriting. Because gold medal doesn't have an. Yeah, but I'm with you. Yes.
So even though AO is treated as one unit, it's kind of separated from the rest, but if you have an A somewhere else, you still have that
That's
and
a
that.
good question.
Right?
So you said, what if there's an A elsewhere?
We did that with the D. We're at DO because there was a D elsewhere.
That's true. That's
And it
true.
didn't.
It doesn't affect it.
Because it's almost like when you circle it, it's separated.
One guy.
Yeah.
DO is now one guy.
So
Okay.
there's not 2 D's anymore.
I like that. That's a good way to look at it. Yes.
Now, as we don't have a restriction right now, why do we divide by 2? And because you can switch a D out, it doesn't matter, right? You can put a D there and switch a D, correct?
No, division by 2 is because we have 2 L's that could, like, if I draw it all out, the 2 L's would look the same. Even if I say I flip-flopped them, they still are the same. So you divide by that, and then we have 2 D's.
Now, why don't we do it the other time when we had the restriction of the 2 D's? You can
So-
flip the D's, but they're still the same thing. That's why I was confused why we didn't put the D underneath it. 'Cause you can flip the D's, and it still look the same.
I think, I'm hoping that brings us back to the same discussion that because it's one unit now, it's not considered 2 D's anymore.
But you can still switch
that's
the
true.
side. That's why I was like, wait, that's no way you can do that.
So you still think we should divide by 2 factorial?
Or multiply by 2 factorial. Because it'd swap. And then multiply another 2 factorial. That's why I was like, wait, you can't do that because you still have the D's flipped. They're still separate letters. They're not. So you'd actually be 5 factorial times 2 factorial times
Okay.
2 factorial.
Was that the scenario for the very first?
I think that was an answer.
No, that was one that you made up, I think. The
There was one where we
DO.
made it where it was like D.
No, that's actually the
How about part BII?
Yeah, that's what
Let's
I'm
look it
talking
up and see what they told us to do. Let's make sure I don't lead you in the. But my thought process is because it's DD, it's not going to change it at all.
But it's still like, but in the same way, it was 2 DD, even in the original way. So why would you divide by 2?
No, because in the original one, the one that gives you here, you don't have to account for the D switching because that's a restriction. You didn't originally take the D into account. you just ignore them and say 5 factorial, not including the D's
Yeah,
in the first place.
but
so
then
you
you have to
don't.
multiply by 2 factorial because you can still switch those D's no matter what. I can say
No,
DD
but that's
and
the
then
same
DD.
exact thing, so
Wait.
you don't count it.
Even in a 9 factorial, you can. It's the same thing. It's
It's
a gold medal.
intense.
I
That's
know,
what
it's
I'm
so
just saying. Like it works.
No, because then
Logic is
Both
my.
the marks.
Because then when you restrict it,
Yeah, you're still have
taking
DD,
that
but you still
copy
have
of the
DD.
D's back out.
But you still have DD.
You know what makes me excited is that we actually have to have discussion in math. It's not like history where you can actually kind of, have discussion and kind of argue it out, but this is cool. Let's look. It was 2005.
Five.
2005. Number 7. It's 5
Okay, so it was.
So why would we? It's 5 from your 5.
Isn't that the same?
It's the same thing. It's 120.
Yeah, it's the same as
Right, it was
factorial.
this guy here. It was, because we've switched it up so much. D has to come first, L has to come last. So the only ones we care about at this point are those guys, which is 5 Permute 5 or 5 factorial.
So how come it doesn't matter there if you switch the D's, but it matters in the other one?
It doesn't matter in the other one. That's why you divide by 2 instead of doing that. That's why you have to divide by 2 to get rid of the.
No, they divide by 2 because it's 2 L's, and you multiply by 2 because you can switch the D and the O.
And it makes a totally different
thing.
thing.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Like,
Like if you have D, D, G, O, L, and then you switch to D's, you still have
D, D, G, O, L, and that's how many different.
But when you have D, O, G, O, L,
Then you can still switch the D's in.
yeah,
gold
but it's the
medal.
same thing. But if you have D, O, G, L, D, you can switch the O and the D, and it'd be completely different.
Scenario.
Would be totally different.
Even, but they're still
Yeah.
touching. Like here, you can't tell that they're different. You know what I'm saying?
That's a good question,
Wait,
though.
so you're talking about when we did the D and then O as one thing, and then the rest of it. Why we didn't take into account that you
I
can
know.
switch those.
Oh, I know
two
you're
D's.
No, because it
that's what
tells
I'm
you
talking
first,
about.
last. It gives you
That's
specific
not what I'm
instruction.
talking about.
Not in the book.
That's
the
not-
one that we did.
Oh,
that we
gotcha.
made up.
That's
Okay.
not. No, I know you can't switch those with the D's. Final. But I'm okay. If I'm the one that sees it, then I'm just thinking.
I see what you're talking about, but yeah, I don't know why you don't do that.
Like I know where you're. Like I know. I'm just.
I'm wondering
what it
is-
'cause
I
it-
wonder
It's just weird because why would? Because you can put gold medal and switch to D's, and it still be gold medal, but,
But
you
it's
still
another.
put
You switched them, so.
I wonder if it's because you would divide by 2 factorial to take into account the 2 D's, then multiply by 2 factorial because they could flip, which
That's
cancels
what
it out.
That's what I'm just saying. Like, the working. Of
I
it.
think that's what
why-
it would be, is that
Okay.
they cancel each other out regardless.
That's why I'm just asking. So eventually we'll cancel. I'm just asking.
Okay.
Why we think
I
it
think
that
that's
way.
what it is.
Okay.
Yes.
That makes more sense now.
Yeah.
I'm like, if you can do it, that's why I'm like.
But it would just, it's
It
like,
cancels out, so they just don't show that.
it was
extra
kind
work.
of like the 1C1. You don't really have to do it because you know it's just one choice.
Okay.
Yes.
So if you have a situation where, like, let's say all the R's have to stay together, and let's say you have 3 R's, would you do 3 factorial, or since they're identical, you can't really switch them around, can you? Because like, and that goes for this case when you have 2 D's and 2 L's. Can't those D's and L's switch?
No, because the question read, the D's must go first.
But I mean, like, the second D and the first D could switch, even though it's.
But that's what she's asking.
Yeah.
So she's saying, but couldn't they switch, right? Yeah, of course, they could switch, but you'd be dividing by 2 factorial, but then multiplying by the 2 factorial, and it would cancel each other out.
Oh, because.
So they do the work, they
They
just
just
don't
don't
write
show
it.
it.
They don't
That
show
makes
it.
sense now.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, wait, you can do it.
Yeah. Now, what if they said that, and I'm trying to think of the best way to say this.
What if you were in the middle?
Yeah, and that can happen, and that's okay, because you just are going to take into account, like if you had DD here, you would still have 5, 4, 3, and then 2, 1 left over to fill in. Yes.
So what if it just had to be like the D was in front of the L? Or the D's were in front of the L's? But they always had to be like that. Would that change the scenario at all?
But you mean,
Like they could move, like because the other letters could go in front, but it still had to be that the D's were in front of the L's.
so the only thing that would,
Like they would still
happen.
come first, but
I don't think they would do that to you, because I think the scenarios would be the D's, then the L could be here, then the D could shift,
Yeah.
and the L could be
Yeah,
here.
so
I
I'm
don't know
saying-
whether they would do that to you. but I mean, you would just have to take each individual scenario and try to figure out how you could place the rest of the numbers. Yes, well, you know, it was 5 factorial, probably times however many scenarios that could potentially happen.
Okay.
Yes.
So if you had, let's say, in those 5 spaces in between, you had another D that has nothing to do with the 2 Ds over there.
Like you add another one in?
So if gold medal had 3 Ds in it, and they said 2 of the Ds are clustered together at the front.
Right.
So I
don't think it would matter unless you had, for example, 4 Ds. And because 1 doesn't change it. It doesn't like duplicate it to a different thing. But if they said, if let's say gold medal had 4 Ds in it, 2 of them had to stay, then you would divide by 2 factorial because the 2 within could interchange.
So it would just be 5 factorial over 2 factorial.
Yes. These are great scenarios. Yes.
I know we've talked about this, and I know that the DD would be 1 unit, but why is there still? Because like it's still 2 letters, so why would you put 8 empty spaces after that?
Okay. Why is it not 9 instead? Is that what you're asking?
No, why isn't it 7?
7.
Because you're stationary, they're not moving.
Yeah, they're not
at all.
changing.
They can't
And
move.
L cannot
Right.
move.
So they're done.
They're
done.
in place and not moving.
Once they're in, they're done. And once they're in, they're done. So what happens is, how many spots do I have left?
You still have 5, but like if it's just if the L's don't matter and it's just the 2 D's, why isn't it still 7 spots and not 8?
I think she's making a scenario where the D's are just sit there and then the L's are able to move. I think she's trying to say. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, so the stipulation went back to, now we have this, right?
Yes.
So this is 1 unit. Although 2 letters, 1 unit.
Okay, so it just
It's like 1 letter.
It just is.
Yeah, it
Like
is.
DD is 1 letter.
Now we consider DD 1 letter. So what do I have left over?
Okay.
So,
Like LL.
right. They're no longer a D and a D. They're DD. Does that help?
So now, if it was able to, the D's were able to move around, it'd be 8 factorial or 8 factorial over 2 factorial.
Right.
Or it'd be, if it couldn't move, it'd be 7 factorial over 2 factorial, correct?
Because of the L's.
Well,
I have another one. What about this? What if I just want to give you another scenario I thought of that we hadn't gone over.
Okay.
What if my D's always had to be 4 letters apart?
You would do every letter in between.
So what would the first scenario look like? Like, do you agree with me that multiple scenarios of this could happen?
Yes.
Like, I could have D, and then they have to be, what, 4 letters apart? So 1, 2, 3, and D, right? And then, so what would that scenario be? Does it matter? I mean, it has to be there. And that
4
has
are
to,
always exactly 4 letters apart.
That's technically 3 letters apart.
you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So let's say this is a scenario. So that's one scenario.
Mm-hmm.
What would the next scenario look like?
You can shift
Shift
them all
it down.
down.
Okay,
You can
so
only shoot
blank
down
D,
so
blank,
many
blank,
times.
blank, blank, D, blank, blank, right?
And then you shift down one more.
Okay, blank, blank, D, blank, blank, blank,
But you
blank.
can only do it one more time.
Okay, so blank, blank, blank. It's not taking. No, this is in there. Yeah, we'll just finish that scenario. Now what?
So what you would do is, you would say, ignoring the D's, you would
thank you.
do, how many are left? 7?
Yeah.
You would do 7 factorial, and then times 4, because there's 4 different ways you can factor the D's back in.
I want you to
Times
remember that.
4 factorial or 4?
Times 4.
Just 4.
Just 4.
All right, good lesson, guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And another way to know that there's 4 ways is saying that there's 4 spaces in between the D's. So then it would be 4 factorial, and then
It would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 factorial.
7 factorial.
Again, 7 factorial.
Yeah.
Again, 7 factorial. And again, although you have to remember there's 2 L's, you have to take that into account, right?
So it would be 7 factorial
Divided by 2 factorial
for the L's
times 4.
times 4 because
Because that, and that are
there's
all
4 scenarios. Okay.